Who creates drawings and why do they do it? Today we're going to talk about what different draftings and drawings are and what their purpose is. A lot of paperwork is produced by a lot of different people throughout a production, but today what we're going to focus on is what that paperwork is that is needed to build a set. So the scenic designer is the person who, along with the director, comes up with the idea for the three-dimensional world that the action takes place in. After script analysis, the designer is going to work towards conceptual drawings, which include sketches and renderings. They may also include storyboards or thumbnail sketches, anything that really communicates their idea to the director and the other designers. Once that scenic designer has solidified their idea, they then create a three-dimensional model. They can do that a physical model, or they can do a model using a computer-aided drafting program. Once the aesthetics of the design have been solidified, the set designer then creates a drafting package for the technical team to complete and build the set. The technical director then takes the set designer's drawings and engineers the best way to construct the design in the physical world. The TD will then create working drawings that the scenic crew will use to build the set pieces. They use a variety of different materials to fulfill that set design. The first of the scenic designer drawings that I want to show you is what's called a color rendering. So a color rendering gives the essence of what that set is going to look like. It is not in scale, so a technical director can't build from this type of drawing, but it gives the director and the other design team sort of an essence of what that set is going to feel like. Color renderings can be done in almost any medium. A lot of color renderings are done in watercolor, acrylic. You can even do them in oil pastels or chalk pastels, or really any medium that gets the idea of what you want that set design to look like. It's becoming more and more common for designers to now use computer programs like Photoshop or SketchUp or Procreate to produce their renderings. These renderings for the musical Peter Pan were painted in acrylic paints. They are conceptual drawing designed for the director and the other design teams. They can't be measured from, however, the scenic artist can reference them when they're painting the set. A ground plan is the most necessary piece of paperwork that a set designer provides the team. This is a bird's eye view of what the stage arrangement will be for the production. Almost everyone involved in a production will need the ground plan, and the ground plan always needs to be in scale. In scale means that you could measure the drawing and know exactly how big the actual set pieces will be when they're on stage. We use a scale ruler to measure the drawings to know exactly how large to build that set piece on stage, or where exactly to put all the different set pieces once we move the set onto stage. This next section in the video will show you how to use a scale ruler. A scale ruler is designed to measure something that's small so that it can be built larger. This first line I want to show you is just regular ruler. So you see 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2 inches, etc., etc. When we say 1 inch scale, we mean 1 inch equals 1 foot. So you can see here, this is the inches part. So that's 1, 2, 3 inches, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. The other scale we're going to talk about today is 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. So as I look at the scale, I go 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, and so on. And then when you turn around, we're going to do the inches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to flip over the camera and I'm going to draw a little bit of a line here, and we're going to go ahead and measure it in 1/2 inch scale. So what we would do is move it down to the 0 on that 1/2 inch scale. You don't want to include the inches when you start, and then you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7 feet plus a little bit at the end. So what I'm going to do now is move it down so that it touches that little 7 there on the left, and then I can count the extra inches that are off the end on the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to go ahead and write that out. So it's 7 feet. And then it looks like it's about 1 inch. Let's do that one more time. I'm going to draw my little line. And then I'm going to take it to the 0. You always line it up with the 0 first. And you're going to count the feet. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't quite get to the 4, just to the 3. So then we're going to write out 3 feet. And then we have to move it down so that the 3 feet mark is at the very end. And then we're going to count our inches. So 3, 6, 9. 3 feet, 9 inches. So the scenery that we would build would be 3 feet, 9 inches. The section view is a drafting that represents the scenery as if someone were standing in the wings looking at it from the side. It appears as if the scenery and the architecture of the stage have been cut down the center line and only 1/2 of the scenery is visible. So this is a really important drafting for the lighting designer and the technical director so that they know where everything is going to land, particularly when we're talking about the line sets and everything that has to be up in the air. This is another example of a ground plan and what they're calling right here a staging plan, otherwise known as full front elevations. These are the drawings that include the entire set. This line that runs vertically on the stage is called the center line, and this line that runs horizontally from one side of the proscenium to another is called the proscenium line. Everything that's measured on the stage is measured from these two lines. The thicker lines are the walls of the set, and these thinner lines that have arrows on the end, they indicate the length of a set piece or the dimensions. If you see a dashed line on a ground plan, that indicates that there's a piece of scenery that's above head, or at least above that 4-foot cut line where the ground plan is actually drawn from. Once the basic set has been decided upon and agreed upon, then the scenic designer begins to break that set down into individual pieces and draft each individual wall. These are called front elevations. The front elevations are in a particular scale, and the scenic designer needs to indicate what scale that is. Front elevations are not at all in perspective, so it's a straight-on view of every single wall or scenic unit on the set. And every last detail that that set designer wants on their set needs to be indicated in these drawings. Here is another example of front elevations. Now, these don't have as many dimensions on them, but it's okay because if they're drawn to scale, we can get that measurement using a scale ruler. So again, I just want to reiterate that Every piece of the set needs to be drawn out in detail in these front elevations. Once the front elevations are complete, then the designer is going to take those and add color to them, making the paint elevations. The scenic artist then takes these paint elevations and recreates them on the large scale. Here are a few examples of paint elevations painted in watercolor in 1/2 inch scale. These were painted for a production of The Wizard of Oz, and as you can see, they've been covered in a clear plastic acetate that goes all the way around that paint elevation. The reason for this is because it's always best to give your scenic artist the original painting, but you do want to protect it. In order for the scenic artist to more easily measure all of the dimensions, the left side of this drawing has been left unpainted. When the technical director receives the drafting package from the scenic designer, then they turn around and they develop a plan for building the set. They have to engineer each individual set piece and lead the carpenters in how they are going to build those pieces. They communicate their plan through a series of drawings called working drawings or construction drawings. These drawings that they create are very, very detailed, and they will be in a specific scale, usually 1/2 inch scale. For complicated, multifaceted scenery, an orthographic projection allows for multiple views of the same piece. In addition to the three-dimensional view, you'll also have a top view, a front view, and then a right side or a left side view, whatever represents that scenic unit best. That three-dimensional view by itself is called an isometric view, and you'll see that a lot when you are constructing props. The first thing you think of when you think of a set is probably the walls that we put up on stage. So those walls are made of panels that we call flats. There's a design called a Broadway flat, and that's when the construction is built on the face of the wood. And then there's also what's known as a Hollywood flat. Those are a little bit more structural, and the 1x4 is laid on edge to construct those. One other thing that you need to know before you can start drawing and building sets is that when we say 1x4, that's what's called a nominal dimension. The actual dimension is going to be 3/4 inch by 3.5 inches. So just a little recap. Again, this is a piece of what we call 1x4. And the front side, the wider side is the face. The end is obviously called the end. And then that is what we refer to as the edge, that smaller side. For those of you who don't have experience using a tape measure, I just want to really quickly go through how this works. So this measures in inches and feet, and you hook the little end onto the end of what you're measuring, and you can see there's 12 inches equals 1 foot, 13, 14, and then it looks like that's 1/4 inch. So that would be 1 foot, 2¼ inches. Next, I'm going to show you how to draw out a 4 foot by 8 foot Broadway style flat. So using a scale ruler, I'm going to draw out the outside dimensions, which is 4 feet wide by 8 feet tall. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw in each component of the flat. The boards across the top and the bottom go all the way, and they're called rails. The vertical pieces that go up and down butt up against the rails, and they're called stiles. You also need a piece through the center to add some support, and that piece is called a toggle. The overlapping pieces that are situated into the corner of the flats are made out of luan, and those are called corner blocks. The corner blocks are always inset 1 inch from the outside edge of your flat so that you can situate 2 flats at a corner and not have that 1/4 inch gap. The smaller pieces that hold the toggle in are called straps, or they're also known as keystones. A cut list is a list of all of the different pieces of wood that you will need to cut to put this flat together. So first we're going to do the rails. They go all the way, so they are a full 4 foot. The next thing we're going to do is the stiles, and in order to calculate the stiles, we need to subtract out the width of 2 rails. Now, it's called a 1x4, but remember that actual dimension is 3.5 inches rather than 4. So 3.5 inches plus 3.5 inches is 7 inches. 8 feet minus 7 inches is 7 feet 5 inches. The next thing we want to do is we want to cut our toggle. We only need 1 toggle. Even though I wrote 2, we need 1. And that length is 3 feet. Again, you're going to minus 3.5 inches on either side for the width of the stiles. So it's 3 feet 5 inches. In order to hold the flat together, we do need our 4 corner blocks. We need our 2 straps, and then we also need a facing material, which typically we're going to use a 1/4 inch Luan, which comes in a 4x8 sheet. Now you have an understanding of how to build a very basic 4x8 flat. So when it comes to working drawings or construction drawings that the technical director puts out, they're as varied as the different sets and set designers and productions that you see all over the world. There are no 2 that are going to be exactly the same. However, there are some similarities that you're going to see through all the different working drawings. One thing you'll find on every working drawing is a border and a title block. The title block gives us the pertinent information. For instance, the title of the show, the producing company, the set designer, the technical director, the scale, the date that the drawing was drafted. You will always have dimensions on working drawings. Those indicate the size of each individual piece, and then you're usually going to see callouts. Callouts are just some specific details that a carpenter needs to know in order to build that set piece. Congratulations, theater students! You made it all the way through the drawings video. So, as a reward, we're just going to go through a few more working drawings set to music.